The opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of Salem Communications, staff, management, or advertisers. This is the Racquel Ludaway Show. Real talk, real solutions. Sponsored by the Real Estate Radio Network. During the next hour, you'll gain valuable insights into real estate and investments from Racquel Ludaway, a Keller Williams Capital Partner and one of Central Ohio's top real estate experts. Now, get ready for some real talk with real solutions. Here's your host, Racquel Ludaway.
Hello and welcome to the Racquel Ludaway Show, Real Talk, Real Solutions on 98.9 FM, The Answer, the most important hour of radio for everything real estate in the Columbus marketplace. And the goal of the show is to educate, empower, and engage our listeners with tools to take their lives to higher and more meaningful level by providing a balanced view of the current real estate and financial market and offering solutions to improve the quality of our listeners' lives. So each week we will discuss hot topics in the Columbus real estate market and welcome special guests who are experts in their field and trusted advisors. And together we will teach you how to win in any marketplace. So thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Racquel Ludaway, real estate consultant with Keller Williams Capital Partners. And you can always reach me directly at 614-886-7780. And on today's show, we will be discussing everything you need to know about estate planning. And in the studio today, I welcome special guest, William A. Thompson, attorney at law. Now, Bill has been an attorney for over 30 years, practicing mainly in real estate and probate law, and has been active as a real estate agent for over 30 years as well. And he's been teaching for Hondros College for over 25 years and teaches pre-licensing law class. So Bill is a member of the American Ohio and Columbus Bar Associations, in addition to the real estate and probate division. So Bill is a past chair of the Columbus Bar Association's Public Education Committee on Real Estate and Probate. And he's authored and edited numerous books on real estate law. So I'm so excited to welcome you to the show today.
Racquel, thank you for having me. I'm glad I could attend, and hopefully we'll give your listeners some useful information they can use in their everyday life as well as for estate planning.
I am absolutely positive we will. Just so that you guys know, Bill was my law teacher when I attended Hondros College, and he is the funniest guy. He has the greatest sense of humor, so I'm sure you're going to benefit from all his experience and knowledge and a little bit of laughs, hopefully, as well. So let's dive into estate planning, because I think this is one of the most important topics that people should really focus on, and really they don't. A lot of people do not plan their estate, which is, really mind-boggling. So what is an estate, if you can explain that to us?
Well, an estate is actually two things. It's the assets you have while you're alive, but in the context you're using, I think we're talking about the probate estate. And a lot of people just don't want to face their own mortality. Mm-hmm. So that they don't want to have the necessary documents in place for not only, again, while they're alive, but also for their death. Estate planning would be planning, for your lifetime, should you become incapacitated, etc., but also planning for your death. And today we'll discuss very, very simple techniques that you can use, anybody can use, to help avoid probate, and you'll see why we don't want to go through the probate process, but also to plan for Medicaid, nursing homes, if you ever have to go into long-term facilities. These are very simple tools or rules, and sometimes you'll need to contact a professional who does that type of work, Medicaid planning, things like that. But in my line of work, I think as a probate lawyer, as you said, my job is to make sure you don't have to go through probate, not just to execute a last will and testament with you.
Okay, so many people think that, of course, when you're thinking of estate planning, you're thinking that, this is just for the wealthy. And if I am not a wealthy person, maybe this does not apply to me. What would you say to that? I mean, can anyone do estate planning? Anyone
can do it, and everyone should do it. First off, let's define wealthy. If all you have is $15,000 in assets, that's your world. That's everything to you.
Right.
And I see so many people who do not do any estate planning, who are not, we'll say, the 1%, and all their assets are eaten up by creditors or estate taxes in years gone by, and we'll give you some good news about that. And they're the ones that should be doing the estate planning. The everyday Joan or John should be doing the estate planning, and they don't. Let's face it, there's really only two things in life that are certain. We know what they are. Death and not taxes, because I can get you out of taxes. It's death and Ohio State against Alabama. It's going to be a lock. I would vote for Ohio State.
I'm sure lots of our listeners would agree with you as well. I certainly do. So if you have a car, you have, a house, you have a couple $100 in your checking account, maybe, life insurance plan. Maybe you're not rich and you don't have $1 million in, assets, but if you have those few things, what would they need to do? What would you do? Exactly.
And this is the person you want to plan for. Let's go back and start at square one and talk about what probate is. I want to dispel a myth. Probate is not for your loved one's benefit. It's not for the benefit of your heirs or the beneficiaries you name in a will. Oftentimes ask folks, do you have a last will and testament? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, well, have you really read it? Mm-hmm. Well, no. The lawyer prepared it for me. I never really read it. I tell them to read it because it doesn't say probably what they think it says. Most people's wills say something like this, if they're smart enough to have a will. Mm-hmm. I give everything that I own, all the rest, residue, and remainder of my estate, to my spouse. Should my spouse survive me? Should my spouse have predeceased me, then to my children, perhaps in equal shares? What do you mean by all the rest, residue, and remainder of my estate? Mm-hmm. Well, the whole purpose of probate, and here's the newsflash for people, is not for your heirs and it's not for your loved one benefit. It's for your creditor's benefit. The whole purpose of probate is to seize, I'll use a term here, your probatable assets, liquidate those probate assets to cash if necessary, pay your creditors first, and then we read your will to see who gets what's left, the rest, residue, and remainder. Now, there's a lot of attorneys, and I don't do this because I think it's redundant. There's a lot of attorneys who were put in a will. I direct that all my just debts and expenses be paid. You don't have to put that in a will. That's state law anyway. Okay. State statute says we pay your creditors first, and then we start paying off, and then we disperse the rest to your loved ones. There's some exceptions there. If you have a spouse, we'll give a spouse what's called a spousal allowance, which is $40,000 to keep your spouse going for the next year. Well, if the spouse was relying upon a $100,000 income, now all they got is $40,000, and we'll have to liquidate the rest of the assets probably to pay off bills. So we want to avoid the probate process because the good news is Ohio is one of the last states that says when you die, the creditors that you owe can only seek payment from probate assets. Okay. So we want to make sure all your assets are passing outside the probate court's jurisdiction, and thus we're preserving them for your loved ones.
So definitely, I want to dig into that. So it has to be, and we're almost out of time on this first segment, so we're going to talk a little bit about that once we go into the next one. But what you said was probate assets. So there's two separate things, right?
Correct. There's probate assets and there's non-probate assets, and we're going to show you how to make your assets non-probate.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm excited. I want to know what that is. And one of the things that stuck with me when I was in class with you, and maybe this is a little bit of what you're saying, is if you're a married couple, you explain that make sure that your car is in your name and not in both of your names.
Correct.
Make sure that your credit card is in your name and not in both of your names.
You don't want joint debt.
Right. Yeah. So that's going to help us a little bit when we're talking about what's a probate asset and what's not, right?
And planning for probate, right.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. So on that note, you're listening to The Racquel Ludaway Show, Real Talk, Real Solutions on 98.9 FM, The Answer. And if you would like more information about the topic discussed on the show today, or you're in the market to buy, sell, or refinance a home, call me at 614-886-6666. 614-886-7780. That's 614-886-7780. And as your local real estate expert, I'm available to help you with all your real estate needs or connect you with a local expert that's on the show. They would be glad to help you with your needs. That's 614-886-7780. We'll be right back.